Hi, thank you for joining us. This is New Jersey Wedding Podcast, and we are your hosts, Andrea Pertel and Celia Milton, and we are both professional wedding officiants here in the state of New Jersey. And we thank you for joining us
Yeah,
today. How's it going, Celia? It's exciting today.
it is. We got like such great news from Spotify that like we're like
Yeah.
number one for like all the people that listen to us. They like
Yeah.
love us. It's like so great. We're so
Yeah.
excited.
Spotify does this
Yeah,
analytics for their
yeah.
creators called
Year end.
Wrapped at the end of the year.
Mhm.
And so we just got our 2024 Wrapped, and we have had such an explosion in
It's
growth
great. Oh, it's
this
great.
year
It's great.
that it's just really, really exciting. I know it takes a little bit of time to take off.
It does.
And I want to say, and we'll post it on our Instagram and
Yeah.
stuff, but we really appreciate all the listeners, all the
No.
people who follow and like and review and recommend us. And we really, really are thankful for all the venues and vendors and the unique people who come on as our
Oh,
guests and interview with us and talk
yeah.
about their trade and it's just wonderful.
It's quite an array too. I mean, we have a blacksmith and
I
it's,
know.
we've got a blacksmith. We've got underwear. We've got like wedding
Yes.
gowns. We've got like donuts. It's like, God, anything you need, you can find with us. It's like
And
so
it's
just
important. The
fun.
bride needs that
Yeah.
special bra underneath her wedding dress and donuts. You needed donuts and
Yeah.
unique gift ideas for whether it's for your wedding guests
Yeah.
or for your ceremony or your rings. The blacksmith. We've had live painters. We've had
All
amazing
kinds of great stuff.
bands and DJs and all different kinds
Yeah.
of videographers and photographers and venues, beautiful, great venues.
Oh my
So it's
gosh.
exciting. It's really exciting. It makes me very happy, and we are so thankful to
It
everyone.
really is. I'm going right now. I'm in our preferred list. When we started, it's really kind of exciting to see. When we started, we had, I don't know, we started the preferred list. I think we had 12 people on it, and now
Uh,
we've got like almost 100. So we're like, I'm breaking it up into like, here are all our venues, here are our DJs, here, all our specialties. And just like looking back at places like Merced Manor and Johnson's Locust Farm, and there's just like so many great
right,
places and so many fun people on here, Ben Lau and Gary,
right.
and it's just like a fun, it's like being like the Monday morning over coffee conversation is like what we're striving to do. And it really, I think it really sounds like that. And I hope it's really useful. So it sounds like it. Yay. So
Yes, yes. And
yeah,
I think it's interesting too. A- all of them get a lot of plays. I know, like Clark's
yeah,
Landing, The Mill, Lakeside Manor, Bradford
yeah.
Estates, they all got, a lot. But the Tides Estates
I know, right?
was the number one
I
listen to.
know.
Michael from there was great. I gotta say, it is one of my favorite
Yeah,
interviews.
that's a fun
I
interview.
believe it's well, this is all season five. And I believe it's number 16, but
Yeah,
if you want to you guys want to listen to it. And we do want to say we encourage the conversation. So if you have a venue or a vendor or a question that you want to hear from, let us
yeah,
know and we'll get them on the show. And
yeah.
if you have a question about your wedding ceremony or any part of your wedding, just ask us.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
I had somebody email me the other day, one of my couples, and they're very far out there, the end of next year. She's like, we're thinking about hors d'oeuvres. She's like, I know you were a caterer. Like, what do you think? It's like, don't ever just ask me with a like an open-ended question like, what do I think? Because you'll be like 3 hours later, she's like, oh my God, she's talking about like butter pats now. Like, just can we just hang up on her? And it's like, but
but you know,
it's
that's a
confusing. There's so many confusing things about this, and sometimes I think it's nice to be able to ask somebody else besides the person trying to sell you an hors d'oeuvre.
yeah.
you should have.
somebody that's not doesn't have a horse in the race, right? As
Yeah,
they
right.
say, right?
Yeah,
Ask
exactly.
ask
Exactly.
them, from experience.
Ask us
And
anything. Yeah, it's like, you
yeah,
know what? You can be as sophisticated as you want. You can be in the most fabulous upscale venue that you want. When the pigs in a blanket come around on that tray, people are going to be like beating each other over the head to get to that tray. Okay? It's like, oh no, no pigs in a blanket. That's like a style thing. It's like, no, it's not. People love them.
people love them. That's true. And um, if you are a recent bride or groom and held your wedding in New Jersey, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, what did you
We'd
learn?
love
What
to
would you do
have
different?
we'd
Yeah,
love to have you on, do a little interview with you. If you have any advice, if there's something you did that you're so happy you did it, is there something you didn't do that if you could do it again, you
right.
would do? Um, we want to hear from you. We love some real life wedding stories, especially ones here in the state of New Jersey. So just, yeah, message us on any of the Instagram, Facebook, website. You can get a hold of us
Yeah, we're
easy.
easy to find.
We're
We're
easy
pretty
to
we're
find. And when
we're
we don't have guests on, Celia and I have both been officiants in the wedding industry for at least 14 years. Celia's been longer than myself, and we love to talk everything weddings, ceremonies, give you
yep.
examples of all different things to include in your ceremony.
Yeah,
So,
it's real fun. It's fun.
yeah. So,
There's an answer to every question.
yeah. And another reminder, because it is December 4th,
Oh
and
yeah.
I know we've been booking these end of the year elopements.
Yep.
There is still time. If you have questions, reach out to um, either Celia or myself. You can DM us from any of the social medias, but we're
Absolutely.
also, the websites are for both of our elopement sites are New Jersey Elope or Elope New Jersey.
There you
Both of
go.
those
You
will
can
get you
find
to
us.
us.
Well,
So,
I think that, it bears mentioning too that, if you're thinking about getting married before the end of the year or after the end of the year, which might end up being a smarter idea, there are, beyond the implications of just, oh, we're just madly in love and we want to get married. A lot of people elope for various reasons, and sometimes it's better to do it in one year than the other. So, not to be
very
the
true.
most unromantic person ever, but it has
There's
implications that
reasons. Yeah.
it's like New Year's Eve is different than New Year's Day.
Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
It is. It is. Well, speaking of planning, oh, that was smooth, wasn't it? It's like
Yeah. Great.
we had Chris on today from she's a wonderful planner. I had such a good time working with her. We worked with her up at Audrey's Farm, which is a lovely venue in very nearby New York State. And we're going to try to get them on. I think it's such a pretty place. But she is a planner, month of coordinator. She does flash, she does all kinds of things. But
Right. She has some great.
I really kind of love her outlook. And I think, for people who think, oh, planners are only for, you know, big, fancy, expensive New York City rooftop, ballroom weddings, that's not necessarily true. I think a lot of times, people who are doing something that has a lot of do-it-yourself components, which is, fantastic. You don't want to do it yourself that day. And, I think she's a really great resource for those clients.
Yes. Um, the name of her company is Uncaged Events,
With a
and it's
K.
spelled caged is spelled with a K. It's a play on her name. So Uncaged Events, and of course we'll put links. You'll see the links in the
Yeah.
social media and as well on the podcast sites. So you can go right to her website and her Instagram site and check her out. So stay tuned for this great interview. And thanks again, everyone, for subscribing and liking and listening and participating
We love
in
you all.
our
Yeah.
podcast. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're engaged. That is just great. But right after that excitement, stress can sneak in like a surprise RSVP. Traditional weddings are beautiful, but they can also be expensive and complicated and, frankly, a little overwhelming. What if your wedding could be everything you dream of, minus the drama? At NJ Vows Now, we believe your special day should reflect your unique love story, not some outdated list of rules. You can have all the wedding and none of the stress. We have sweet little parks and pretty gardens from the Hudson River to the Jersey Shore to the lush forests of the North and the West. We'll connect you with a curated network of amazing vendors who will understand your vision and respect your budget. We're all passionate, professional, dedicated to making your wedding a relaxed, unforgettable experience. Yes, you still need a license, but we can help you with that too. It's fast, it's easy, and you can still throw a big party later if you want. Doesn't that sound great? Of course it does. So just ditch the drama, vow to be different, and reach out to us at njvowsnow.com. We will have the confetti cannons ready. Good morning, everybody. We are so excited to have our guest this morning. It may not be morning where you are, but it's morning right now. Uh, Chris Glover Rasimus, I hope I said that right, who is a fabulous planner that I actually met at a wonderful, unique venue called Audrey's Farm. We're going to try to get them on here too. Um, Planner, florals, design, rentals, day of. She does all kinds of different levels of services for what I consider to be some very specific couples. And I hope you'll talk about that because I think when you go to her website, you're going to see what her point of view is. And if it aligns with your point of view, I think you're going to be in very, very good hands.
All right.
So,
It's Uncaged Events.
yes.
Uniquely spelled too.
Oh, it's actually a play on my initials, um
Oh,
KAG, and also kind of how I approach the wedding planning process. So
Yeah.
Celia, you touched a little bit on kind of the type of client that I
Hmm.
guess does tend to gravitate towards me. And I would say that they are couples who don't want to feel trapped into wedding rules necessarily. So I kind of see that as like
Yeah.
uncaged, like breaking away from what is
like that.
maybe
Yeah.
traditional.
Yeah. I think that
Um,
that your website communicates that really beautifully, I have to say.
Thank you. So yeah, so I do find that I work with a lot of couples who, they want their day to be meaningful and to really represent them as a couple as well as individually. And they're really more focused on, having all their friends and families and, loved ones just in one space to celebrate their love. They're really focused on creating that experience for their guests and for themselves, as opposed to maybe checking off a bunch of boxes or, having 5 foot tall centerpieces.
Yeah.
They want things to be attractive and to be reflective of them, but they're not looking to, have like a wedding wedding.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
that
no, I
makes
know what you mean. I do, and
Yeah.
I think, my best advice is, go to the website, people,
Yeah.
and look at it because
Uncagedevents.com.
the real weddings there, you've got a beautiful gallery of weddings, and I think that they really would resonate with people who are trying to do something that's, a little bit off the beaten track, not only physically, because we're talking about farms and places like that, but just like a little bit. Not really, ballroom candelabras, you know?
Yeah, so actually the wedding that we met at, I think is one of like a really good example. It
Yes.
wasn't technically my wedding. I was there with a fellow planner who was actually my coordinator, and who kind of inspired me a little bit. Where I live in the Hudson Valley, the wedding industry is so super friendly and we all kind of work together and it's really great. So I was actually there with her. But they were a perfect example, like a couple who they didn't do a first dance, they didn't do parent dances, they didn't do a lot of what would be
Yeah.
considered traditional or things that, people would tell you have to do.
Right.
They were just more focused on really having that space with their friends and family. and just creating that beautiful environment. So the biggest thing I did that day actually was hang star lanterns from the pergola ceiling on a 14-foot ladder. So that was my day.
Oh, someone's got to do it, right?
Someone,
Yes.
yeah, someone has to do it. You know, Chris, you have three packages that you offer, and you can tell us about those. But I see that you also say contact me to create a custom package, and you also offer add-ons tailored to the level of support the couples are looking for. So tell our listeners about the packages you offer.
Yeah, so I start at, management slash coordination, which, most couples will probably see referred to as like a day of coordinator.
Right.
I don't personally use that term. I think it's a
No.
big misnomer. No one is showing up day of your wedding being handed
Right.
a binder and just like knocking it out of the park, no
Go
matter
for it.
how
Exactly.
type A or how long you've planned this wedding. So at the very least, I get involved like 4 to 6 weeks out. I recently upped that a little bit to kind of like a 3 month package, but I'm flexible. But in that time, I really work to form a relationship with your other vendors. I think it's really important that not only the couple has a relationship with them, but that they also have a relationship with me. Um, I don't necessarily want to be meeting them day of the wedding, and then they're like, oh, who are you, and I'm supposed to listen to you when you tell me
Yeah.
what has to happen.
Yeah.
So and then I kind of get everyone on the same page, make sure that the venue has everything they need, do the arduous task of asking for certificates of insurance, and pretty much like all those little logistics that I like to joke around you could definitely figure out, but there are things in this life that we don't all have to learn. Like I could learn how to change the oil in my car, but that doesn't feel like a thing that would improve my life. So,
Right, right. I don't
um,
want to. I'm going to hire the pro. Yeah.
That's right.
yeah. So I tell people that, like, at that level, it's kind of like dealing with all those little nitty gritty details that, like, maybe you don't want to deal with, and that you can kind of like turn your attention back to doing things like writing your vows and picking your first dance song, practicing your dance, whatever it is, instead of wrangling your vendors. And then on the other end of that is full planning, where I am with you from like venue selection to like last, like cake cutting, like final send off. So that's where we, I'll work with you to kind of figure out your style, what kind of venue you're looking for. And we go through that whole process of choosing venues, choosing vendors. Um, I like to find out people's budgets, and kind of use that as, a way to give recommendations. And again, as I said, it's important for clients and couples to have a relationship with their vendors. So while I'm on calls, I very much advocate for, you hosting
Yeah.
those interviews. Like I'm not going to just pick vendors for a couple because I like them.
Yeah.
And then my partial package is, everything that is in that management coordination space. And then we kind of pick what I offer from my full planning package to create something that is, meets couples where they're at in their planning journey, so that I can best support them. Sometimes that is just figuring out the last few vendors. Sometimes it's help with design. So yeah, I like to leave that space in my partial package to just make sure that I am serving my couples, to the best of my ability,
Yeah.
and meeting them where they're at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are some nice packages. Now you have some add-ons, design, floral, and rental.
Yeah, so I do rentals. That kind of started organically. Like as a planner, couples like to give you their things, which is nice. Um, So that's kind of how that started. It got to the point where I was like, oh, I have so many candles. Like I should really be you know, doing rentals. Yeah, my husband was like surrounded by my candle boxes, and I was like, I should probably make money off of those. And I also think it's like a really good way to be able to show couples like a 3D representation of what's in their head. Um, you can go on Pinterest and look at inspo all you want, but it's kind of like, when you have that idea of what an outfit is going to look like in your head, and then you put it on and you're like, I actually look like a potato.
Yeah, I
Oh,
know
Um,
yep.
that.
it
Yeah,
can kind of be how
we've all
like
been
this,
there.
yeah, it can kind of be how like design works, right? Like in your head, you know what you want, but it may be hard to verbalize it or hard to visualize it in your space. Especially in the spaces where I work, which are a little bit more DIY a
Yeah.
lot of times. Like, so it's really good for me to be able to, in my studio show people like this is what your centerpiece could look like. Um, and then I also got into like the design bit a little bit more, because when I first started, you're sharing galleries and you're looking at everything. And for me, it was just like, oh, I made sure that those things happened, but visually, I didn't have too much of um, a role in what this looks like. So, um,
Mhm.
yeah. So I kind of went back to like my whole like marketing self, um, and started offering, invitations, signage. I learned cricketing in the process. So I do a bunch
God.
of like vinyl wedding signs. And I'm always trying to just like keep what I do interesting for me. And always just trying to learn more. The floral thing kind of happened because I farmed for 12 seasons. So it kind of just made sense
Yeah.
to add that on to what I do. Um, and because I worked in the farming industry for so long, I'm able to help my clients connect with some local flower farmers and really make weddings more like local and sustainable, which is something I try to focus on. I feel like that also feeds into the whole rentals bit, like creating less waste.
I think that, a lot of people have the idea that they're going to do it themselves, which is like great because it's an expression of their personality. But,
Mhm.
at some point, somebody has to figure out who's going to put all those vases out and get water for them. Like, where's that going to come from?
Yes,
And
yes.
it can't be you.
Mhm.
It could be you, but it can't
Yeah,
be
not
them.
me.
Can't be the
Yeah.
bride.
I
It can be
know.
Chris, but it can't be the bride.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
can't be the bride. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you know, that is where I meet a lot of people at, is like they did go down the whole DIY route, which as you
Yeah.
said is great. Sorry, my dog is about to the male person is here. So
Oh, of
we're
course.
getting invaded apparently. Hold on. My coworker is very loud. Oh, there
You
you
have
go.
coworkers
Okay.
like that
Yeah, we
too.
all have we all have
Yeah.
those coworkers.
They can
When
start
Chewy
barking
comes,
at
it's like,
Amazon
oh,
at any
Oh
minute
yeah.
now.
Um, but yeah, at some point they do realize like, oh, I can't do this myself.
yeah,
Um, I talk to a lot of couples who say things like, my aunt is going to do it, or my wedding party.
yeah,
And
no, no, they're
No.
not. No.
exactly like, and I try to say, I kind of see my job a little bit as having to be like compassionately realistic.
Oh, that's a great phrase.
Yeah. Um, like I appreciate that your friends and family say that they want to help, but day of, the reality of that happening is a lot slimmer,
Yeah, it's nil.
And
No, it's not going to happen.
yeah,
And
exactly. And I really do think that like I said, they want this community aspect, they want to be hands-on, and I totally respect that. But day of, there's music, there's drinking, like you're I tell people that, you know, if you like weddings are at the end of the day a little bit for your guests, right?
Right.
Like if
yeah,
if it wasn't about your guests, we would all just elope, right?
Right.
right.
So there is this fine line of making sure that like your guests are comfortable and they're having a good time, but that doesn't necessarily mean they get to have a say over like the food you serve or what your flowers have to look like or what you do
I
with
say
your
this to
day.
all my,
Like,
and there's
but I
venues
do
that,
Dress.
think that that focus should be on creating an experience for your guests, and
Yeah.
your wedding party and your friends and family are not your employees.
Right. And the
oh,
guests
I know.
they don't really want to do the cleanup afterwards either.
No, nobody,
Exactly.
nobody
Exactly.
does.
And that's what I say. Like, I'll a lot of times try to find that happy medium. Like, okay, if you really want your friends and family to help with setup and be there to be your eyes and ears, like, okay, that's something that we can work with. But we need to really talk about what breakdown is going to look like
Somebody needs to
because
be the ringleader. It's
Yeah.
somebody has to be the adult in the room. And I don't necessarily feel like it's always your friends. Not that I've ever encountered that, but, it's not.
yeah,
But I feel like, people they go into these situations, especially, when they're renting a farm or, a off-premise venue that doesn't have, it's not like a banquet hall kind of
yeah,
situation. It's like I think that they don't necessarily realize how many moving parts there are that people who are in traditional banquet places never see.
yes.
There's like, where did the bouquets go? We know they got here. Nobody knows where they are now. The cake, when does the cake have to come in? There's so many things that need to be managed. And it's just, personally, I think that like the best investment people can make if they decide to go this route is a planner. Venues we won't even go to
Yeah.
if there isn't a planner. Because because we know that nobody's going to know where anybody is.
Mhm.
The flowers are going to be somewhere. Everything's going to be late. And that's, and it just, for everything that you've put so carefully in place in a
Mhm.
personalized wedding like this, it can all just go south because nobody knows how to get anything accomplished.
Yeah.
So it's really the best money. I think it's the best money you can spend, honestly,
Well, thank you.
except for us,
Yeah,
maybe.
I would agree with you. Yeah, I think that the disconnect for a lot of couples who do DIY is that they're looking to save money, right?
Right.
Which is totally respectful,
Yeah.
especially, in today's economy. But like you said, so in all of that being one's priority, you can do all of this work and just have it go completely down the drain because there's no one to supervise it
Yeah. It's
Right.
so
apart
true.
from you.
And
It's
if
so
you
true.
enjoy DIY, you can do both.
Yeah.
You can do both and integrate it and have somebody in charge of making it happen and putting it all together on the day of your ceremony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Chris, you make it stress-free, take that off of the couple and create memorable wedding experiences. Do you have a most memorable wedding that comes to mind or a time where you saved the day because of,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Uh,
weather or the cake fell or something?
Oh
okay,
my.
so
Care to
I do
share?
have a really wild story that like
Love it.
no
Oh,
matter
excellent.
what happens, this is the one I always come back to because like I'm kind of pretty proud of the way it wound up. So um so pretty much the venue that I was working at is very DIY. It is literally a barn.
Uh-huh.
And at some point during the evening, because of sound ordinances in the town, they have to close the barn doors. So I'm doing a wedding in July. It is hot. It is a barn. There is no air conditioning.
Okay.
They close the doors, and this one guest gets very upset,
Uh-huh.
very upset. So she starts banging on the barn doors.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And in that process, she cuts her hand open.
Oh, perfect.
Yes. So then the manager of the venue, who is literally all of like 18 years old,
Great.
opens the barn door to be like, to try to like calm down the situation. And this woman is losing it. I walk up to them having a literal screaming match
Mm.
involving words I will not say here. Um, and she is flinging her blood at the staff.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, yeah. So, the venue owner wanted to call the police because that's considered assault. Um, and I de-escalated the situation to the point where all they wanted was for this guest to apologize. She did not want to do that and she wound up leaving. But the reason I always come back to this particular story is because the couple had no
No idea.
idea it happened.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Not at
Wonderful.
all. Like I get a text from the bride the next day who was just like, "Oh my goodness, you are the epitome of grace. Like we had no idea this happened until people told us today." So yeah, so for me, that's just I've obviously had lots of memorable weddings since then, but for whatever reason, that's the one that kind of just sticks out in my mind.
No, I don't know why.
I know.
But that's so great. They never knew what happened.
Yep.
You went and calmed it down,
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I think that, you know what, that's if you could put in a nutshell, like the reason that you hire a planner, even if it's, just like that month of situation is like you never want to know on that day what's happening.
Yeah.
You don't want to know that the cake got there like my cake arrived on the hanging from the dashboard of the delivery
Yeah.
van with like buttercream in the radio knobs. It was that long ago. There were still radio knobs at that point. I never knew. It's like, anything that happens that's like not what we planned, just fix it and nobody needs to know
Yep.
until like afterwards. It's always a great story afterwards,
Yes.
but like not so much when you're going down the aisle in 15
Yeah.
minutes.
Exactly.
So I
Exactly.
like to tell my couples that day of, I am like their shield or their bubble.
Yeah,
Um, so
that's
that they
good.
don't have to deal with those things. Like they will not know if the catering team is late.
Yep.
I like to say that my job isn't to make sure that nothing bad happens as much as I would love to be able to do that. The fact of the matter is that wedding days you're getting a lot of people together on one very specific day. So
Yeah.
my job is more of to make sure that you don't find out about it.
Yeah.
And if you do find out about something going wrong, you're not the one who has to deal with it.
Right,
Yep.
right. Yeah, that's it. That's the whole coordination of it all, right? The
Yep.
juggling of it all. As we head into engagement season for 2025, although I'm not a fan of this word trends, but do you see any wedding trends coming around that couples are asking for
Um,
or
I
not
do
really?
think that you know, a lot of couples, like we kind of touched on in the beginning, are veering away from um having these big lavish
That's
centerpieces. And I see a lot of people, scaling down in terms of like large over the top decor.
Uh-huh.
Um, and kind of
interesting.
like wanting to allow, like I said, their relationship to shine through.
Mhm.
Um, as
That's
opposed
nice.
to like making their wedding this big busy thing. In terms of, I've seen a lot of like emo hours, which as a millennial and emo person, I think is really great. Like a lot of couples have started ending their nights with this like hour of emo music,
Oh,
which
Oh,
is really fun.
really?
a little
Yeah,
black
yeah, yeah, yeah.
parade coming on at the end there.
Yeah, it's really
Gosh.
fun. I guess in terms of like style and stuff, I think we're seeing a lot of like Bridgerton influence.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like
Sure.
bows and um, you know, I see disco balls all the time.
Yeah.
That's my fave. I feel like disco balls are one of those things that is not polarizing. Like
Yeah.
I think everyone loves a disco ball. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
think you're right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So those are some things I've been seeing.
So before we wrap it up, do you have any one major piece of advice for couples planning their wedding, or
Um,
a couple of pieces of advice?
yeah. So I think that one of the things I do try to focus on is, in that whole realm of DIY, sustainability, all of those things. I think a good way to save some money on your budget is to find different ways to reuse your decor. So, finding ways to take like your altar decor and transform it to be present in your reception. So, a
Yeah.
lot of times, if I do florals or I'm in charge of decor, I will take things like the arch or something and transfer it to being like sweetheart table decor. Um, I think that that's like a really big money saver because you could spend thousands of dollars on decor for your ceremony that
Yes.
gets seen for 30 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I always like to, I think that not only does it save money, but it also is kind of like makes your event feel cohesive.
Yes.
Mhm.
Um, I think that uh, also in the whole realm of DIY and non-turnkey venues and stuff, I think there is this conception that going that route will be less expensive. And
Nope.
I like to
Nope.
remind couples that it isn't necessarily that way. Um, because you have to bring in all of those things that you would see at a traditional turnkey venue.
Yeah.
Um, but in the same token, doing like a non-traditional venue does allow you to have more flexibility in what you want to do.
Right.
Um,
Your personalities can shine a little bit more
yeah,
if that's what you're looking for. Yeah.
yeah, and you have a little bit more say in maybe the food that is served and the
Mhm.
catering that, and things like that. And maybe how your day goes in terms of
Yeah.
like schedule. It's a little less rigid, I would
Yeah.
say.
You know,
Um,
I feel like you hit upon a really good point there. It's like you really, you have so much leeway with menus. I'm thinking of one of our um I'm thinking of actually Tamerlane, one of the venues that we had on here a few weeks ago. And it's an animal sanctuary. So what they're, you need to have a vegan menu
yeah,
there. And you may be looking at a kosher menu or a South Asian menu, and you really can bring in all the elements that are really meaningful to you and control everything, but you cannot control it yourself. You
yeah,
need to have somebody help you.
yeah. Yeah. And speaking of that, like you said, one thing that I do find myself working with a lot of couples who are trying to integrate different cultural and
Mhm.
religious aspects. They're maybe both not the same religion or from the same culture.
Yeah.
So I do like to tell people, and this is another piece of advice, like there are ways to incorporate all of those things into your wedding. There's
Yes.
also ways to incorporate all of the different design elements you like. Like I remember when I was planning something that, kind of stuck out in my mind and is a little bit of the reason why I entered into this field is like being told like, oh, if you're going that route decor wise, then you don't want this and feeling like, why not? Why
Right,
can't
Yeah,
I have both
right.
of those things? So I really try to encourage couples like you're allowed to like a disco ball, but then also want some vintage rustic lace if that's, the way you want to go. You don't have to like
There are no rules.
completely feel like you have to go down one rabbit hole just because you like something that is boho or something that's considered rustic.
Right.
Um,
Right. Well, I think people too forget that, or maybe not forget, but they just don't know that like we do lots and lots of weddings.
yeah,
And, we've seen things in the field that maybe work well and maybe don't.
yeah,
And, we can maybe steer you away from some timing ideas that are just not going to be feasible or gracious for your guests. And maybe you'll say, maybe you were thinking about this, but maybe this would be better. And it still gives the same feeling and the same atmosphere, the same style, but it's actually workable, you know?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I want to tell our listeners that we will have a link to Uncaged Events, and caged is spelled with a K, the website, as well as her Instagram site. So you can go right there, see her beautiful work, go to her contact page, and give her a call or shoot her an email for more information. And Chris, thank you so much for joining us
Oh,
today.
so good to talk to you. I know it's crazy time of year, and we're entering into engagement season where like everybody's going to be like, "Whoa, we need stuff." So,
And,
I
yeah.
appreciate your time.
Thank you. This was so fun.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
everybody.
This podcast is brought to you by New Jersey wedding officiant Andrea Pertel, owner of For This Joyous Occasion Officiating Services.
And Celia Milton, owner of NJ Vows Now, also New Jersey wedding officiating services. We're up in North Jersey, and Andrea is down in Central and South Jersey. So together we cover the whole state, don't we?
Yes, yes.